Well, welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending upon where you are. And welcome to the ICF webinar, Finding the Forgotten, How Marginalized Citizens Can Grow Your Community. And that's perhaps a new idea for you, the idea that the folks who have been most left out, who have the hardest time participating in the economy and society, may actually be a hidden source of future growth. And that's what we're going to be exploring today. My name is Robert Bell. I'm co-founder of the Intelligent Community Forum, and I'm very pleased to have you with us today, along with three experts who are going to open up this topic for us. A couple of housekeeping notes. All attendees will be in listen-only mode during this webinar, but we very much want to include your ideas, your comments, your questions. So I ask you to submit those in the chat, in the Zoom chat. I'll keep my eye on that and work you into the conversation as I can. Finally, a recording will be made available to all attendees for sharing, as well as a PDF copy of this presentation, should you have an interest in it. I'm going to just spend a moment telling you about ICF in case you're not familiar with us. The ICF is the Intelligent Community Forum. We're a research, training, and coaching organization in something that we call the Community Accelerator Strategy. And that's all about economic and community development in this very challenging digital century that we live in, which is stressing us, giving us new powers, new capabilities, and also creating a lot of impacts that we're not really entirely ready to deal with. It's based on the experience of a global network of more than 200 counties, cities, and regions around the world. If you want to know more about that, you can check it out on our website, intelligentcommunity.org/accelerator_strategy. Among the things that we do is an assessment offering for cities and regions, which provides you with an objective, evidence-based evaluation of your readiness and your progress in this path that we call the intelligent community, as well as expert consulting on strategy, policies, and programs in order to bring it about. And more on that at intelligentcommunity.org/assess. We also, based upon the data from that assessment process, are able to certify cities and regions as intelligent communities. And that, of course, offers economic development value, which can be of great use to communities, as well as validation for the hard work of the people in your community who are making that progress happen, and access to tools for continuous improvement. More on that at our website at intelligentcommunity.org/certification. We also offer training because this is a complex task, and we want community leaders, staff, and their partners to understand how to go about creating the change that they seek. And it's a set of online courses illustrated by case studies and videos, which offers essential guidance in applying this strategy to your own unique situation. And every community is unique in how it actually applies the principles of this strategy. In addition to offering it online, we will, of course, come to you, put on workshops, do a mix of online and offline instruction to meet your needs. And more on that is at intelligentcommunity.org/learn. And finally, we put on an international award program. We've been doing it for more than 20 years, providing communities with a global stage for their achievements that too often, frankly, fly under the radar and yet are so essential to your progress. We always include networking events in that, and as well as a permanent online profile as an intelligent community. In that picture, you see some very happy people. They are from Binh Dong province in Vietnam. Binh Dong Smart City was named as our Intelligent Community of the Year in 2023. Of course, all of this begs the question, what is an intelligent community? Well, we have a very specific definition of it. Again, we're talking about this confusing and challenging and wonderful digital century, and in it, intelligent communities work across 6 factors to create innovative, growing, and inclusive economies. And all 3 of those things are essential. Innovation is how you get the growth, and inclusion is how you make sure that growth serves the majority of your people, not just a small elite. And if you get that, you are able to support social connection, right? You need growth in order to have a prosperous place where people want to be connected and know how to use the tools of both the digital and the good old-fashioned non-digital means to connect and to build and strengthen that rich and meaningful culture. And you add those 3 things together, and you're talking about a great place to live, a great place to work, a great place to start a career, to build a business, to start a family, to bring the next generation forward and give them a good start in life. And we're particularly interested in how you can tap the enormous potential of technology for the good of the community, not just for the good of the people providing you with that technology. And we have a lot of examples of that as a success story. And this finally is the strategy we're talking about. I'm not going to go into detail. There is a great deal of detail around it, but it's things, some of which you're familiar with and some of which you won't be. Broadband, of course, the new essential infrastructure without which you really can't play in this game. Knowledge work is how we turn that broadband asset into value. And it's something that is fundamental to all parts of the economy, whether you're working in a warehouse or whether you're working in a research lab. Innovation is where 80% of all economic growth comes from. Private sector innovation, right? So we spend a lot of time these days talking about smart, about things that government can do with technology, but fundamentally your entire community rests on the private sector's ability to innovate and to grow that economy. Community engagement has always been vitally important, but it's never been more so, because all of these processes that you're going to go through are going to change your community. And people don't like change. They resist it. They're afraid of it as well. In some cases as well, they should be. So deep engagement is what's necessary to get the best out of the people, to help them shape your strategy, and also to bring them along, to make them champions of change. Digital inclusion, because digital inclusion, the success we have in creating this growing innovative economy is going to unfortunately create the risk of excluding more people from it, right? We create another barrier to participation in community, in the economy. And so it's our job to help people jump over that barrier. And finally, sustainability, because, well, it energizes and engages your community. It improves your quality of life. It will present an enormous economic development opportunity in the next few decades. And it will also be something that will be a big shock to us as we try to grapple with climate change and how we're going to adapt to it and how we can help slow it down. That's going to be a big shock for a lot of places. And communities really need to pay attention to that so that shock doesn't turn out to be a big negative for them. So that's our strategy. That's our story. We're sticking to it. But now let's turn to the reason that you really joined us, which is our panelists. I'm pleased to welcome Karisa Tashjian, who is director of programs at a nonprofit called Digitunity. It's a member organization of ICF, and we're very pleased to have her with us. We also welcome Duane Powell, who's the Chief Information Officer of the City of Hilliard, a member community of ICF, and also this year, one of our top 7 intelligent communities of the year. So congratulations once again to them. And finally, Kim Emch, who is founder and executive director of FESTA, which I understand is in Hilliard. It's a very interesting organization that we're going to hear more about. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can turn to our panelists and hear from them. So Tasha, I called you Tasha. I like that. Karisa, would you be kind enough to share your screen and tell us a little bit about the work of Digitunity and how it applies to this question we have?
Yes, thank you, Robert. It's my pleasure to be here with everyone today. And I've worked for a long time at a large urban public library, and that's where I'm starting my story today. And during that time, I saw firsthand the need for technology and skills development. And the library did what it could in terms of computer labs and tech classes wherever grant funding allowed, but it was never enough. And we were somewhat in a bubble doing that work, knocking on doors of workforce development and social services, education, government, about working together on digital equity. And that was not a priority at that time. Now we fast forward through the pandemic, and awareness of digital equity and digital needs is more understood. Yet there's still a gap between that access. So going to a computer lab, for example, and owning a computer, right? There's a difference between, the mindset of, all right, we'll give public access versus a more equitable approach of owning a computer, which is possible. And so that's what we strive to do at Digitunity. We strive to fix systems and build for sustainability. At Digitunity, we've been doing this work for over 40 years, and we've been working to make device ownership possible for everyone. And we work with states, cities, and communities to foster sustainable device ecosystems. And what we do is we source devices computers through supply chain interventions, large-scale corporate tech donations, small-scale tech donations, government tech donations. Hint, hint, Duane, we need to talk to see what's happening in your city, and individual tech donations. And we place that donated technology with qualified recipient organizations. These are trusted nonprofit organizations in communities everywhere. Digitunity, we also raise issues surrounding devices to inform and create action. And you'll see a little more of that in my presentation. So, yep, there's 36 million people in the United States today who don't own a computer. And we're speaking here of large screen device ownership. We're also talking about enough devices for a household. So through the pandemic, of course, we saw that maybe the computer coming home from the school and the whole family using it, even for employment. That's not enough. We need enough for whoever needs a computer in the household. And phones are not enough. We could have a debate over that, but research is showing, and I challenge anyone in our work to spend a whole day doing what you do for your work for the most part on a phone. It would be very challenging. And as you can imagine, computer ownership drops off for people of color, rural residents, people with disabilities, the folks who are historically marginalized, the folks that we're talking about in today's webinar. So while we match donations to people in need, we do this through 1,500 nonprofit frontline organizations. If you know of one that would like to join, it's free. The challenge here is that we don't have the solution yet across cities and states. It's not a sustainable supply. So if folks sign up for us and need technology, and we have a very long waiting list for technology, the ecosystems across the United States are not built yet. There's many bright lights of innovation there, but it's not comprehensive and it's not consistent. So I want to tell you a little story here. We state on our website that we don't serve individuals. We work through organizations. However, every day, and we do our best on our website to discourage individuals coming to us. I think this is a sign of the desperation and need for computers, and this is a very real thing. Within the last 12 hours, here are 2 messages I've received. I want to get my GED to further my education. I'm 6 months pregnant and want to start back educating myself for me and my new addition. I'm in college in Atlanta, and I'm currently doing my work on a cell phone. I received SSI because of a disability, and I don't have any money to buy one. I hate the fact I'm going to have to drop out because of something so simple. I'm 53, and this is my first step to a newly, hopefully better life without abuse and restrictions. Definitely top of mind every day when I show up for work. This is what we're trying to solve for. There's about 50% of jobs today need employees that have technology skills. It's probably higher, but that's our statistics showing us. And these aren't just technology jobs. As we know, all across all jobs, you need technology. It's estimated by 2030, 75% will have requirements that you have technology skills. Yet half of adults in the United States aren't comfortable using technology to learn. So up on the screen, I have some hope for us is that the federal government has a $65 billion bipartisan infrastructure law that will expand broadband infrastructure access adoption over the next several years. And it is a giant step towards advancing digital equity. But it's not enough. We cannot just rely on this federal money. We had a federal infusion for digital equity about 10 years ago. And I don't think that sustainability was necessarily top of mind, and we don't have a lot to show from that necessarily. In some ways, we do. We absolutely do. But there was, when the money went away, a lot of the programming went away from that. So we can't have that happen again. So states and territories are currently completing their digital equity plans, and many are out for public comment right now. So I highly encourage you to look on your state broadband office and see what their plan looks like and weigh in. If you like it, if you don't, they are looking very carefully at the comments, I assure you. We've been talking with most of the states, and that's the feedback we get. And I have up here the covered populations that this money is meant to address. I thought it was very insightful of these 8 covered populations the federal government has identified, and it aligns to our webinar talk today. So from our standpoint at Digitunity, we need a robust supply of free and low-cost computers that are made available to marginalized people across the country consistently. And devices cannot be an afterthought. I know broadband gets a lot of attention, but devices are so essential. So here's our view of a methodology that we believe communities and states and any kind of entity needs to take on. It's holistic. It draws attention to the need for devices. It shows how a robust system can be built with the assets within the community when they're leveraged and mobilized. And it can actually be quite self-sustaining. The device aspect has a lot of elements that can keep this going on into the future. Resources are kind of self-generated from this system. And I've been talking about refurbished computers, and we have about 100 nonprofit refurbishers in our network, but we're also recognize that buying new computers are part of the solution as well. And this is my last slide. This one and the one before it, graphic, are available on our website, digitunity.org, under our approach. And this I wanted to wrap up with this graphic because in the center here, it talks about all of the essentials that are required to we can give out the devices, but that they're really used and for the purpose the person needs them for. I just want to point out desk. Can you, at first I thought we're going to put a desk there. Nope, out in Pittsburgh, the nonprofit refurbisher has identified that seniors had such cramped quarters that they were not able to use the computers they were being given because they didn't have an adequate desk space. So that's a really example of what's happening. On the outside there on digital adoption, it points to all of kind of the things in a community that need to come together, skills development, internet, and all of the other considerations, cybersecurity, that need to be woven in when a computer is given out. And then, leaving on the human side of things. On the outside here, we have a number of people and what they are using a computer for. I feel like it goes full circle for this conversation. And I do want to point out here that, yeah, we have college readiness, we have accessing healthcare, telehealth, all that kind of things, remote learning, getting a job. But be sure to notice that it's civic and community participation that a device allows. It allows creativity. It allows social connections and entertainment. That's equity. So that's what we're working for. And I look forward to the conversation today.
I'm doing the classic. I'm so interested in what I wanted to say, I forgot to unmute. Karisa, thank you very much. That was really, really interesting. I want to ask you a question that just occurred to me while I was listening. I mean, you basically challenged us with this vision that says, well, everybody needs a computer. I mean, everybody deserves the right to have one should they opt to that. Do you ever get challenged with, well, wait a minute, if everybody gets a computer for free, you're going to put all the computer manufacturers and retailers out of business, aren't you? I'm just curious, because that would be the first dumb objection that I would come up with.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Well, and some of those equipment managers are part of the solution and have been for us in the past, but this is a big country. There are more than 36 million computers sold in the United States each year. So if you think of it that way, that pipeline of needing a higher level, and I want to also say refurbished computer does not mean second class computer. We're talking about high quality, refurbished, tested computers. That is like a benchmark of what we're talking about. But yeah, there's enough computers for both the companies to make their profit, the leasing companies who are putting the computers into corporations, the recyclers who all have a piece of this, kind of complex ecosystem to be making money as well as contributing to the community.
Yeah, no, thank you. I wanted to give you a chance to make that point because it's one of those crazy things that people say, and you think, let's just talk about some numbers here, shall we? It's 1/10 of the population. Okay, we're going to move on now to hear a different angle on this whole interesting thing. I was fascinated that we've got a CIO here to talk about this particular topic. Duane Powell from Hilliard. Duane, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Robert, and thanks, Karisa, for great presentation. I have the unenviable position of being stuck between two very good presenters, so everyone bear with me here.
Oh, you can do it on charm alone. Come on.
Charm alone. There we go. So just give you a little background about the city of Hilliard. We are in central Ohio. We're a population of about 37,000. We're a relatively affluent community in central Ohio, but 25% of our households do earn less than 50K a year. The median is around 97,000. 6% of our families with children live below the federal poverty line. 29% of our households rent. 71% of those do own their own homes. Unfortunately, 44% of our renters and 16% of our homeowners are cost burdened, meaning that those households spend 30% of their income on their housing costs. So that is a challenge for them. 20% of our residents are non-white and 7% of our residents are foreign born. So just give you a perspective of the community in which we're trying to serve. So to start out with, one of the things that we were able to do or identify was during COVID. We've all, fortunately coming out of that experience. But we offer Wi-Fi around our community. And one of the things that we noticed was that our Wi-Fi usage beyond the 8 to 5 hours was being used heavily. And we were like, well, that's interesting. What is going on when we're shut down effectively? And we found that we had a large amount of usage happening in our parks and in our open spaces, people using our Wi-Fi to do their schoolwork. You could see on some of our security cameras, kids working on their computers and their devices in these cars. So there's got to be a better way to do that. And we know that there was COVID money available to us. And we were fortunate enough to have been building a broadband network, fiber optic network, to serve our businesses and to really help our community grow. The triple helix that Robert talks about, the connectivity that we wanted to try to do. We had started that progress. I will say that trying to build a large fiber optic network during COVID was not something I recommend, but it is outside, so we were able to make some progress. But looking at that, one of the things that we were able to do was not only were we putting in a fiber optic network, but you can see off in the distance of this slide is Columbus, Ohio. So you notice that one of the tallest things between us and Columbus, Ohio is a water tower. So we owned 2 of these structures, plus we have several high buildings. So instead of taking money under the Affordable Connection Program, which if you're familiar with that, it's a wireless program. Wireless providers would provide those access to students. But typically what we find with that program is that it expands and contracts based on federal dollars. So what can we do to help these students that was more sustainable? So what we were able to do was build our own CBRS, or private cellular network, using our fiber and using our high access points that we had around the city. And what we found was, by partnering with our service providers, we could offer that to our students. They could take these devices home, they could work on this in the comfort of their own home, and we could make that sustainable by offering this program free, completely free, to the community, to those students, with a 1-for-1. So we, by our partners accessing our fiber optic network, we get a revenue share. That's part of normal people that can afford. By doing that with our students for free, we were able to take, okay, for every student you offer this for free, we are going to take a sold service off the table. So this allows us to be sustainable, and we're still offering this program today. And one of the things that we learned, and it's really a touch point in communicating with our community, is listening. And in the beginning, this was not rolling out as quickly as we thought. We had this list of students. We were working with our schools. They were providing the list, and we're like, well, why wouldn't you be taking this program? As you see the coverage across our entire city we were able to provide, why aren't they taking this? And just on a really a fluke, we started leaving messages in Spanish, based on the list of names that were in Spanish, Spanish sounding name. Let's leave the voicemail message in Spanish that we're offering this. Let's communicate them in Spanish to the parents. And we really doubled our take rate after we started doing that. So, and if I had known Kim prior to that, she would have probably helped me with that back then. But that was one of our wins that we were able to do. So we were excited about that. The next program I'd like to talk about is low tech, but this is a really great program. It's called Neighbors Helping Neighbors, and what we do in this program is we have a lot of elderly folks or people with a handicap or some type of health limitation, and we found that that cleaning up and working in their yard and getting ready for the spring is a big hurdle for them. So we started a program. We had our last, we had 41 volunteers, and we are able to go in and basically maintain or help these folks in just basic yard cleanup. And the results that we get in helping our community and helping these folks be able to stay in their homes or make this environment, their environment that they live, a little bit easier for them, it is all from learning and listening to them of what some of their challenges are in staying in those homes. So it's a really great program. It makes the neighborhoods look nicer. It makes the people feel more in tune to their environment and where they're living, and it's really a great program that we do. What we learned from that, though, in communicating, and my team, the IT, we participate in that, we enjoy it. But one of the things that we learned when they find out who you are and what you do for the city is they had problems with their devices. So our seniors, our population is really aged since 2010. Persons in the 55 to 64 age range increased by 89% in our city. And those over 65 increased by 73%. So it's a very large part of our community, and we wanted to be able to serve them. So we started a program because looking at this, we found that shame and embarrassment is a big part of the handicap for our seniors in engaging in these new technologies. Older adults are knowledgeable, they're very highly skilled in other areas of their life, but digital skills don't quite equate sometimes. They didn't learn those skills in the workforce. So we started Senior Tech Day, which we come out. It's open to all seniors in our community. We run this once a quarter. You can bring any question, any tech device to us. We have a great interaction with these folks. We learn a lot. This lady here that's demonstrated in this picture, she's very much into genealogy, and we were able to help her work through her genealogy programs, access her computer, and utilize that. And she comes every session and just loves this. So it's not only the technology, but it's showing them how to use it for something that's beneficial, that makes and enriches their life. And this is a very special program for us. But again, listening to our community and understanding them. One of the things that happened in sitting there and listening to these folks was we had an elderly lady come in, and she said, she walks with a walker, and she said, well, I need to go. I have to go to the store today. And her friend said, well, that's always a struggle for you. But she goes, I know, but I have to go every day because of my walker. I can only carry so much, and I have to go every day. And so this is a big handicap for her. So we thought about that a little bit and was like, why don't we do grocery pickup? And we mentioned that to her and she goes, yes, but I don't know how. So this year, just a month ago, we started a new class that we offer that shows our seniors how to do a grocery pick list and how they can have their groceries delivered to them. It was an inaugural program. We capped it at 20 just so that we could service, and we filled up within the first 48 hours. So it was very exciting. Got very positive feedback about that. But again, bridging the technology and bridging the need to our community by listening to them, we were able to offer really an easy service. And our local grocer actually come in and helped us teach the class. So it was really great. One of the things that I think ICF stands for, and one of the things that Hilliard is really identified, is that one of the keys to keeping servicing our marginalized communities is getting to them very early when they're in school, and maybe diverting them or directing them in a way so that they don't become marginalized. How do we give them the skills and the training and the opportunities so that they can go and become productive members of our community and give them that skill set? We're very fortunate with Hilliard City Schools and partnering with them directly. And the programs that they have are very phenomenal. I'm going to highlight three. There's many. But one of the key things that Hilliard City Schools does is that by working not only with the city, but working with our business community, is they have a steering committee of educators, business professionals that collaborate and try to design a curriculum that benefits these students so that when they walk out of high school, if their choice is not advanced education, that they are employable, that they have the skill sets. We target graduating seniors in another program and juniors, and that's nearly 3,000 students annually, to work with businesses and to do internships in co-ops and apprenticeships in some of the trades. We work with the Ohio Contractors Association, and we sponsor activities that not only help develop these skills, but show them what opportunities are available to them. And really excited because being in technology, we started a fiber splicing curriculum with our tolls. It's our technical school. And these students can come out, go to through this program and really learn the skill set they need to be able to splice fiber optic cable. And once they graduate, walk into an employment opportunity. Now, to service our students that do have visions of higher education, one of the things we want to work with them is on engineering, STEM jobs. And working with our local engineering groups that we work with, Converge Technologies, IC3D, and even JP Morgan Chase, we're able to provide internship opportunities with the state of Ohio in which these kids can come in and do real engineering and work on real projects in Converge Technologies and some of our other spaces. So the state of Ohio helps us fund. These are paid internships. They get to work on real world problems, and very happy to say that we had a number of students go through our pilot program this year and worked on actual city technology projects, problems that we had brought and are working on to make our citizens' life a little better, technologies that can enable our city to be a little better. So I guess the whole mentality here around our communication and what we're doing is a quote I like to share from Arthur Peter. Helping one person might not change the world, but it could change the world for one person. And that's really how all these programs have started, is just trying to affect one person and make their life a little better. So thank you.
Duane, thank you very much. That was very, very, very interesting. Kim, you're going to be up next. I just want to ask one follow-up question for Duane. You made a comment that I found really interesting. I happen to agree with it, but I wanted to call it out, which is We talked about how the dollars for some of these federal programs kind of go in and out like the tide,
Mhm.
and it's more sustainable to do this at the local level.
Yes, sir.
Now, that seems like an unlikely proposition. Could you talk about why you think that's the case?
What our case from a technology standpoint is that we're investing these dollars into our fiber optic network. We invest the dollars in the infrastructure in these buildings and these structures. How do we leverage those opportunities so that it is sustainable? And thinking long term, not what we can just service today and not how we can solve the problem today, but these problems don't go away. These students that have connectivity problems today, they hopefully they enter other programs and we move them forward and they don't have these issues today, but there's going to be another influx of students that have that problem. Wouldn't it be nice, and our goal here is with our program is to make sure that we can continually roll this out and continually do that without having to infuse any more taxpayers' dollars into solving this problem. And we're very proud of the fact we've been able to do that.
It's very interesting. Tim, we're going to turn it over to you to hear about a very different kind of example, but I got a little briefing on it ahead of time, so I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you so much. I can't help but say I'm sitting here swelling up with pride because Hilliard is my hometown. It's where I've spent my entire adult life as a homeowner, as a mom, raised 2 children to adulthood from being born in this town. And when Duane gives his presentation, again, I just sitting here swelling with pride. And it is the birthplace of what I'm going to talk about today. And I think you can see, I think it's perfectly timed that we present in this order. Karisa, you'll see a deep connection that we have with what you're passionate about. I'm super excited to meet you and to learn more about what you're doing. It's, again, really connected with what I'm doing as well. In America, the lack of English language skill negatively affects every single area of life. Without English, it bars people from the workplace. Without a living wage, it's a quicksand into poverty. If a parent can't get a job, their opportunities are limited, their children are hungry, and they're starting to worry about food, clothing, and shelter every day. Moms tell me if they can't speak English, they can't have a conversation with their children's teacher, a person at the grocery store. They can't make friends. They end up isolated and lonely and depressed with no relationships outside their home. I'm Kim Emsch. I'm the founder and executive director of Festa. Festa is serving our neighbors. We feed, educate, serve, train, and advocate through multi-generational English education. And we are ending poverty through life-changing relationships with neighbors. In March of 2007, I learned there were 2,158 children in Hilliard, Ohio, my suburban town where I was living, raising a family, working, that were facing poverty and hungry in the summer because school closed and they couldn't get a free lunch. Again, 2,158. My heart broke. As a mom, I couldn't imagine not being able to feed my own children 3 healthy meals a day. Immediately, I felt a call on my life by God to love, serve, and feed the children facing poverty in my suburban town, body, mind, and spirit, and bring the community with me. Again, this wonderful, amazing community that Duane just talked to you about. The first day of our suburban free summer lunch camp, I met amazing children, very similar to my own children, with families who love them, many of whom did not speak English or have margin in their lives to give children experiences where they could thrive. At the end of the first summer, parents asked if we could help their children with homework. They felt education was their children's best way out of poverty. But because of lack of English, work schedules, lack of technology, they couldn't help their children with homework, and they were watching them fall behind in school every year because of it. So at Festa, we started an after-school tutoring and homework help program. We continued talking with parents, and we noticed that children were translating for them to have a conversation with us. Parents began asking us, where can I learn English? So we looked throughout our community and found very few English programs. In fact, today in Columbus, Ohio, the 14th largest city in our country, there are so few adult English programs that only 3% of people who need them can find one. The majority of counties in Ohio have no adult English classes, and many states are similar. Adult English has traditionally been attended primarily by men, to the percentage of 80%. So at Festa, we added adult English and preschool to our after-school program to serve the entire family, infant to grandparent. Picture the whole entire family. With all three generations coming together at one time in one place, we are serving over 1,000 people in this loving community that Festa built, a community where healing takes place. Some people have come from war-torn countries. They've come from horrific tragedies that I will hopefully never truly understand. A community where people feel loved and cared about and belong, where English is taught, where homework help is given, where preschool takes place. And I want to tell you a quick story. In January of 22, I met a family of 7. I'll call them the Malik family, 5 children plus a mom and a dad. They arrived in our country from Afghanistan after the US troops left and the Taliban conflict grew. They left so fast, they arrived in America with little more than the clothing on their backs. Immediately, they got adopted by a local church that Festa works closely with. A team of 15 people agreed to wrap around this family. Now, no one in the Malik family spoke English because their plan had never been to come to the United States of America. They were like deer in the headlights when they met their new friends. However, a language barrier is no match for the power of human connection. In no time, the family and the volunteers fell in love with each other and they became family. The first thing the church group did was to enroll the family in Festa's 3-generation family English program. Mom and dad started coming, learning English, and the parents, the children came with them, all 5, and got the education support they needed from preschool to homework help to dinner. From there, things really started to fall into place. Dad was able to get a full-time job that volunteers drove him to daily at 5 a.m. The children got settled into school, and the whole family could come after school to practice their English at Festa's Family English program. A year later, Dad earned his driver's license, which offered the family's freedom. Mom's English has allowed her to become an entrepreneur. Through a partnership with Festa, she sells her food at our local farmers market, which is quickly becoming a catering business for her. One of the volunteers from the church said to me, "Of everything we did to wrap around this family for a year and a half, the best thing we did was to enroll them in Festa's 3-generation family English program. Without that, nothing we did for the family would have mattered." This program is huge. Today, we're serving over 1,000 people who want to learn English with over 400 volunteers and a student wait list we never get through. The relationships that children, parents, volunteers build with each other go far beyond this program. Each life is transformed. This year, I went to a 4th of July barbecue to meet up with the Malik family, and I found them celebrating with 100 of their American and foreign-born friends and neighbors, celebrating together with their families, all being transformed by these multicultural relationships. It's working. People vote with their feet when more than 1,000 people and hundreds of volunteers come to the same program year after year, the same community that gets built. The results are spectacular. When a whole family can come to one place at one time and get the education they need to thrive, families move out of poverty. And some families have moved out of Ohio, out of Columbus, and they've called us to say, why is this only in Columbus? We want this in the state where we live now. And so we are passionate about growing and scaling this across the country. We can't find other family English programs. And we think it is really spectacular and amazing, not only for the families who come, for sure, but also for the hundreds of neighbors who come and build those relationships across lines of difference and get close to issues of social justice, and they get transformed and changed in miraculous and amazing ways. And so that's what we do at Festa.
Did it again. Thank you very much, Kim. If you could stop sharing your screen, we're going to spend a few minutes chatting about things. I prepared a bunch of questions from this, but you've already answered most of them, so I'm going to just go ahead and make up some questions. The two things for me that came out of all three of your presentations, as different as they were, are really two questions. One is the issue of sustainability that Duane raised, right? So, this kind of work is potentially very unsustainable because if our funding source suddenly dries up, all of a sudden we're in terrible trouble. So, the ways in which you can figure out how to make this pay for itself is not the right word, but make that funding sources sustainable and growable is pretty critical. So, I mean, let's start with you, Kim. I mean, how does your organization approach that issue? You've got this big ambition to go, to do 49 other states, which I think come to mind. We need it. How do you think about that?
Yeah, we from day one when we started free summer lunch camp, and this is probably because my husband would call me a super cheap person, but also I had a sense right from the beginning.
You and me, we think alike. Okay.
Yeah, I need it to be nice, low cost. And from when we started free summer lunch camp, I was so, maybe the word is naive, I'm not sure, but I thought to myself, this isn't going to cost any money. We're just getting a lunch and handing it to a child. How much expense could there be? Then I learned trash bags would really be nice, and napkins, things like that. So having said that, I knew from the beginning that in order to scale this, because let me be clear, in Hilliard, Ohio, when I learned that there were 2,158 children in our suburb, I looked around at all the other suburbs and I learned that poverty in the United States was moving to the first and second ring suburbs, which was proven by Brookings in 2005. So it's on the trajectory. And when I learned that, I realized, again, as I went around talking to people, they were shocked to hear the information I was sharing. And some people still are today. And so I knew early on that this needed to be scaled, and to be scaled, it had to be affordable. You can't create something that's super expensive and try to scale it. That's crazy and it won't work. And so from day one, we learned how to be bold askers, and we learned how to think way outside the box. And for example, we have never paid a penny for program space in 16 and a half years. And we run programs with thousands of people year round. We've never paid a penny. Right, and that's sustainable.
Yeah, that's
sustainable. And most companies, your biggest expense is your building and your people. We do have people costs, but we have no building costs. And so we learned that there's free space all over our community to be used, but it takes bold asking to find it and to ask for it. And I believe that most people want to do something in the world that makes a difference. They're just waiting to know how or what they could do. So I make it my business every day to tell people how they can make a difference. And for some people, it's, can we use your building for free? And most, we use churches, we use schools, we've used empty storefronts of strip malls that were vacant. We've used apartment complex leasing offices, grassy knolls in apartment complexes, you name it. But that's how we've done it.
Down here, because I want to give your colleagues a chance here, but yeah. I really like that. Karisa, you're also in the nonprofit business. So what's your pathway to sustainable, long-term sustainability?
Well, first, let me say, I think I found my sister, Kim. Do we share a lot in common. We definitely need to talk, just personally and professionally. So amazing work that you're doing. And I know it is because I've done it. And so kudos to you. Yeah, sustainability. I think I definitely agree with, and it's evidence with Duane's presentation and Kim's, that you have to set the table and put the invitation out there for people to even know how to contribute to the question. You don't get a lot of no's, actually. You get something as long as you ask. So for us asking companies to donate their technology, we might get a no because they currently lease their product from a company, but that's not a no. There are ways around the procurement and through the leasing that they need to learn about, that they can contribute the computers to their community. So for us, I also think a lot about maybe it's a stone soup approach. A little bit from everybody can add up to a lot. And for looking at funding sources for devices, particularly, I like to look at things from workforce innovation, workforce monies, apprenticeship monies, SNAP monies, healthcare, telehealth monies. All of those are funding sources for devices. They just have not been maximized or leveraged at the at the level or scale that could be possible. And those are sustainable systems within themselves, but they can also be expanded to devices. So that's where I stand on that, land on that.
I like that. And of course, digital makes it actually easier for us to reach a lot farther. Duane, you gave us an example of our theme, which we have still not, I still haven't proven the premise of this webinar, which is that by doing this good work, you're going to actually be creating economic activity as well as social connection and cultural connection that you wouldn't have had otherwise. But you came up with this example of training young people to be fiber splicers. When in your discussions with, and this is really a question for all three of you, in your discussions with either with organizations who might fund you or your budget discussions in the case of a city, is that coming up? Are you able to make that case to people that ultimately this is going to be good for us all? We'll never be able to measure it, but it's going to be good for us all. Let's give Duane a chance to talk about it.
I think it's very important to listen to all those communities. I think one of the advantages of being in local government is having these touch points with all these different communities. And people, are very keen on explaining their problems, their issues, their hindrances. What you really have to listen for is the other groups that you're in contact with that can help, right? And a lot of times 2 problems equal a solution. So in the case of our internships with the young people, the schools are saying, hey, we need opportunities for these kids. We need to expose them. And on the other side, our businesses are saying, hey, we need the workforce. We need these people to come in. Well, it now just becomes a discussion with these groups and come together and say, hey, you need to help us solve this problem. You need to give these kids an opportunity to be here with you, to learn. And what we're finding is that where maybe some of the reservations were, well, how beneficial can this be to my business, is these kids are coming, they're learning, and then they further their education and they come back and become members not only of the business community, but of these businesses that initially trained them. So it opens doors for everyone.
Interesting.
And similar story, and I'm sorry, this occurred to me, was we're working with our seniors and our young people. Is our seniors are a very valuable resource, and they want to contribute. And we started a program in which our seniors now go to the schools and read to our kindergarten first graders. So they're giving back to the community and helping these students in a way where there was a lack of resources. So lack of resources, I have a group of people that want to contribute. So we were able to bring that together, and it's an exciting program.
2 problems make a solution. Karisa, how about you in terms of this? I mean, you're doing the bold asking that Kim referred to. So does that question come up, and what is the answer?
I do say that economic mobility and workforce development gets the ears of many people, politically, government, anywhere. So, and just individuals themselves who want, everyone's trying to look to better themselves. So that's, I think, a very common area to come together on. I would also say, it's all about expectations and also coming in with assumptions. So we have a program we work with, part of our network down in Washington, D.C., and he's a nonprofit technology refurbisher. And don't you know, he's opened up in the poorest ward in D.C. in a community center, donated space. You'll like that, Kim. Seniors are refurbishing computers there. So people would be, seniors don't know technology. No. They might not know it, but they want to learn it. And they can contribute right back, and those computers are going right back into the community. So I think coming in with assumptions and expectations, you really need to challenge yourself with those first.
Yeah, well, of course, seniors also have the advantage of, unlike kids, they're patient. Kim, well, that's just last word to you on this. I wish we had a lot more time because it's a really interesting discussion. But in terms of this issue of, obviously what you do in terms of bringing people into the English-speaking world is potentially transformative for them? How does it help you with your bold ask?
Can I show a chart while I'm talking about this answer? Do you mind?
No, go ahead.
So the number one resource on the planet Earth is people. We are the resource. And like Karisa said, I mean, from workforce development to education that moves us toward workforce development, people are the resource. And I show you this chart because lots of people think of poverty or marginalized people. This is the margin over here on the left with the circles in my little lovely diagram. We think of this in terms of a lack of money. And I'm not saying that that's not a piece of it, but that's not the whole part of the puzzle. And I think that's my answer to your question, Robert, is I believe it's really a lack of relationships. And because people are the resource, we are the resources. And so when we can unleash the hurdles, whether it's technology or English or senior citizens, a connection to other human beings, or young people, a connection to get to education or to the workforce, when we can unhurdle, when we can take away the hurdles and connect people with each other, that's the magic. That's when the magic happens. That's when all three of our stories today have been around connecting people to people. So I just want to name that really boldly. I think poverty is around the lack of relationships. And the part on the bottom of the chart, those emotional, mental, social capital is the group of human beings around you who, if I go home tonight, my husband has a horrible diagnosis, my house is on fire, I'm going to need my community. I'm going to need Duane and other people in my community to come around me and literally support me because I'm going to be in the margin for quite a season. And I think it's looking at our whole community in terms of each person having amazing gifts and talents. And if they can be unleashed to use those gifts and talents, they can be the next entrepreneur, the next city council member, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, unfortunately, we have to leave it there. If I could ask you to unshare, that'd be very nice. I want to thank all three of our panelists. So thanks very much. Take care, everybody.